On my small planet, I care for my rose. Here on your vast world, I see something new. Tiny, almost invisible fragments called microplastics. These ghosts of bottles, bags, and clothes now drift into your water, soil, and even your food. Healthy foods, not just the processed ones. Today, let's uncover 10 surprisingly healthy foods where microplastics hide and explore simple ways to protect your well-being and this fragile planet. Mussels and oysters are nature's filtration system, working constantly to clean our oceans. These filter feeders draw in seawater to trap plankton, their natural food source, but in doing so they now also absorb microplastics, which have become increasingly present in marine environments. These plastics, often invisible to the eye, get trapped in their soft tissues and are unknowingly consumed by the shellfish. When we eat them, we ingest those same microplastics. What was once a pure, nutritious food source has become a carrier of pollution, turning each bite into a reflection of our environmental impact. This issue doesn't just affect the shellfish, but the entire food chain. Plastic particles can carry toxic chemicals and disrupt biological systems over time. The risk to human health is still being studied, but early evidence suggests long-term exposure could be harmful. It's not just about nutrition anymore, it's about what comes with it. Importantly, not all shellfish are equally affected. Contamination levels vary depending on the location where they're farmed or harvested. Coastal waters near cities, industrial zones, or heavy maritime activity tend to be more polluted. That's why it's essential to seek out shellfish from clean, well-monitored environments. Look for products certified by sustainability programs or labeled as responsibly farmed. These usually come from areas where water quality is regularly tested and pollution is managed. Supporting responsible producers helps reduce your risk and promotes healthier oceans. Also consider freshwater shellfish, which may be exposed to lower levels of marine plastic pollution. By choosing carefully, you're not only protecting your own health, you're also contributing to the preservation of the seas and the sustainability of a food system that desperately needs it. Anchovies, sardines, and similar small fish are often celebrated for their high omega-3 content and low mercury levels, making them a popular healthy choice. But in today's oceans, even these little fish face a hidden threat: microplastics. As small plankton-eating fish, they're constantly exposed to plastic particles suspended in seawater. Over time, these microplastics accumulate in their digestive systems, and in some cases throughout their tissues. Unlike larger fish, which are often gutted before consumption, small fish are typically eaten whole, meaning we may be consuming their plastic-laden guts along with their nutrients. These microplastics not only carry toxic chemicals, but can also trigger inflammation or hormonal disruption in animals and possibly in humans over long-term exposure. Because anchovies and sardines are low on the food chain, they tend to be more exposed than many people realize. This makes their contamination especially concerning for those trying to eat clean and healthy. Pollution levels can vary by ocean region and fishing practices. Fish caught near heavily trafficked shipping routes or industrial coastlines are far more likely to carry plastic particles. That's why it's important to check the source. Look for wild-caught options from less polluted regions and certifications from sustainability-focused fisheries. Trusted suppliers will often indicate where the fish were harvested, giving you a clearer picture of what you're putting on your plate. Also consider limiting your intake of canned versions packed in plastic-lined tins, which may leach additional chemicals. If you're concerned about microplastic exposure, opt for fresh or frozen fish with transparent sourcing. Reducing your consumption of whole small fish, or at least being more selective about their origin, can help minimize your intake of microplastics without giving up their nutritional benefits entirely. Rice, a symbol of sustenance, is not immune to microplastics. Contamination comes from polluted water, plastic-laden soil, and especially from plastic packaging. Rinsing rice thoroughly before cooking removes many surface microplastics. Cooking rice in extra water and draining it, like pasta, can help wash away more particles. Choose rice grown organically and packaged in paper or cloth. These small steps protect both your health and the environment. The purity of our food reflects the purity of our world. Sea salt, once celebrated as a pure and natural product of the ocean, has long been part of our culinary traditions and cultural practices. It's been valued not only for its flavor and mineral content, but also for its connection to nature. We imagine it harvested from sunlit salt flats through the timeless process of evaporation. But in our modern world, even this seemingly simple ingredient is not untouched by pollution. Today, researchers have found that sea salt commonly contains microplastics, tiny particles of plastic debris that now pollute nearly every part of our environment. As seawater evaporates, it leaves behind salt and any microplastics it carried. These invisible particles settle right alongside the salt crystals we collect and consume. Multiple global studies have confirmed the presence of microplastics in sea salt from across continents, revealing how far-reaching plastic pollution has become. The ocean, once seen as boundless and self-cleaning, is now saturated with the remnants of plastic bags, bottles, fishing gear, and countless synthetic materials. When these break down into microscopic pieces, they don't disappear, they persist. And our sea salt reflects that reality. For consumers, this means the salt on our tables might carry the legacy of decades of plastic waste. While the long-term health effects of ingesting microplastics are still under investigation, the early findings are concerning. These plastics may carry toxic chemicals, disrupt hormone activity, or trigger inflammation in the body. So, what can be done? One option is to choose rock salts such as Himalayan pink salt or other mine varieties. These salts come from ancient underground deposits formed millions of years ago, long before plastic existed. They offer a potentially cleaner alternative, untouched by the modern world's pollution. Packaging also matters. Avoid salt sold in plastic containers. Instead, opt for glass or cardboard packaging, which is less likely to shed particles or leach chemicals into the contents. Supporting transparent brands that test for contaminants and disclose their sourcing is another step towards safer consumption and a cleaner planet. Sugar, a staple in kitchens and processed foods alike, is another surprising source of microplastics. Whether it comes from sugarcane or sugar beets, the refining process often involves plastic-lined equipment, filters, and storage containers. During grinding, washing, drying, and packaging, there are multiple stages where contamination can occur. Moreover, much of the sugar we consume is stored or shipped in plastic bags or lined sacks that can shed microscopic particles. Because sugar is processed on such a massive scale and consumed globally, even low levels of contamination can affect millions of people. And since sugar is added to so many products, often without us realizing, it may serve as an unnoticed delivery route for microplastics in our diets. To reduce exposure, choose raw or minimally processed sugars, especially those packaged in glass jars or paper. Some specialty brands emphasize plastic-free facilities or lab testing for contaminants. Cutting back on refined sugar not only reduces potential plastic intake, but also benefits overall health. Natural sweeteners like maple syrup, dates, or molasses, especially when locally produced and minimally handled, can be a better alternative when used in moderation. Honey is often seen as nature's untouched gift, but even this ancient, unprocessed sweetener has shown traces of microplastic contamination. Bees forage far and wide, collecting nectar from flowers across many miles. During their journeys, they encounter plastic-laden environments, from urban gardens to rural fields dusted with airborne plastic fibers. Plastic dust can settle on plants, contaminate pollen, and find its way back into the hive. Once in the hive, these particles may mix with wax, nectar, or honey itself. Researchers have detected plastic in honey samples from regions all over the world, including areas considered remote or low risk. It's a reminder that no ecosystem is truly isolated anymore. Your best option is to source honey from small-scale local beekeepers who prioritize natural practices and avoid plastics in their handling and packaging. Glass jars are preferable over plastic containers. Raw honey, which is less filtered and less processed, may contain more of nature's nutrients, and depending on the environment, potentially fewer contaminants. Carrots, as root vegetables, are in direct contact with soil throughout their growth. This makes them especially vulnerable to absorbing substances in the earth, including microplastics. Plastics in soil come from broken-down mulch films, contaminated compost, wastewater sludge, and more. Once absorbed, these particles can travel through the plant's internal systems and settle in edible parts. Since carrots are consumed raw or lightly cooked, any contamination is likely to remain intact. Washing helps, but it may not remove internal residues. As with other produce, the risk varies greatly depending on farming practices and the condition of the soil. Opt for organic carrots grown in healthy, biologically rich soil. Farms that invest in composting, crop rotation and reduced plastic use are better for long-term food safety. Avoid plastic-wrapped carrots, as packaging is another potential source of leaching. Supporting growers who treat soil as a living ecosystem rather than an industrial medium helps protect both our food and the planet. Even apples, those crisp, juicy icons of health and simplicity, are not completely safe from the plastic tide. Often hailed as the perfect snack, apples symbolize wellness, yet their growth environment is tied to soil and water, which are increasingly contaminated. Microplastics in agricultural soils have become a global concern. These particles can enter the ground through sludge-based fertilizers, irrigation water, and even atmospheric fallout. Apple trees, with their deep and efficient root systems, absorb not only nutrients but potentially tiny plastic particles and nanoplastics that can travel through the plant. Recent studies suggest that nanoplastics are small enough to bypass cellular barriers and move through the plant's vascular system. That means the apple you bite into may carry residues from a polluted environment, even in orchards that look pristine. Although these particles may be in minute amounts, their presence in something so natural and widely consumed highlights how widespread the issue has become. Consumers can reduce exposure by choosing organic apples from local growers who prioritize soil health. Farms that compost, rotate crops and use minimal plastic are less likely to have contaminated soil. Washing apples thoroughly under running water helps remove surface dust and particles. Peeling them may further reduce risk, though the peel contains valuable nutrients. When in doubt, ask your local grower about their practices. Transparency is an important part of rebuilding trust in our food system. Lettuce, a fragile and water-rich plant, is commonly eaten raw, making any surface contamination especially important. Microplastics from the air can settle directly onto the leaves. Irrigation systems that use reclaimed or poorly filtered water may also be a source. Moreover, plastic mulch and greenhouse coverings may degrade over time, further contributing to the problem. Once plastic particles adhere to lettuce leaves, they can be difficult to fully wash off, especially the smallest fibers. Since lettuce is not peeled or cooked, thorough rinsing under clean running water is essential. Choosing whole heads over pre-cut, pre-washed options can also reduce exposure, as the latter often involve more plastic handling. The best protection is to buy lettuce from trusted local farms that use clean water and minimal plastic. Look for produce sold loose or in compostable materials rather than shrink-wrapped plastic trays. These choices help reduce contamination at every stage. In today's world, it's nearly impossible to avoid microplastics entirely, but we can make choices that reduce our exposure and signal support for safer, cleaner practices. By asking questions, checking labels, supporting sustainable farming, and avoiding unnecessary plastic, we help drive the demand for better food systems. Every small decision adds up. When we choose foods and packaging that respect the environment, we're not only protecting our own health, we're contributing to a healthier planet for future generations. Plant-based proteins like tofu and meat alternatives can carry microplastics from processing equipment, water, and plastic packaging. The more processed the product, the greater the risk. Choose simpler, less processed options and support small local producers who minimize plastic use. Some even make tofu at home for full control. Look for products in non-plastic packaging. Bring the same mindfulness to plant-based foods as you do to your diet overall. Align your choices with your values for a cleaner, healthier plate. Microplastics have found their way into oceans, fields, and kitchens, returning to us on our plates. But awareness empowers us. Choose fresh, less processed foods. Wash produce and support sustainable producers. Your choices, multiplied, shape the world. Share your tips in the comments. Subscribe and let's keep tending to this beautiful planet together.